Good morning and welcome. I'm Bob Pace. I'm your host on the Fight CPS with Bob Pace and not to lose your children, to hang on to your children. The Child Protection System that I'm calling CPS is the agency that is part of social services that's supposed to protect our children from abuse and neglect, also help out families with social services such as food and housing and clothing, those kinds of things. And then if they have to break the family apart, if it's necessary to do that, they're supposed to do family reunification. That is what CPS is supposed to be. But as many of you have found out, it isn't like it's supposed to be. I didn't either. I found out that it still is very distraughting. It is really hard to deal with a government agency that does not care about you or care about your family, and they don't seem to want to do the things that you thought they should be doing. Anyway, I warmly welcome you. I know that most of you um, are involved in CPS when you come to this room, so you may have just started out, or you may have just been going at it for a couple of years. Some of you are my regulars that have been in here lots of times. Um, you'll find that there's two parts of my show. The one part is I tell you how you can interact with this podcast. This podcast is live worldwide, and you found me on Facebook, Fighting CPS, and I'm using YouTube as the broadcast, and I have an application called SteamYard that is part of the broadcast here. And so, with that being said, anybody that has internet in the world can find me. So we've had a total of maybe 13 countries that have made comments, um, from Bangladesh to New Delhi, India to Africa. We've had Mozambique, we've had South Africa, and then we've had Rwanda, and then we've had uh, Liberia. That, uh, those are the countries in Africa. Then we go to Europe, and we've had England, Scotland, Wales, and Denmark and Sweden. Then across the pond, we go to North America, and we've had several from Canada. We just had Canada from British Columbia yesterday, and we've had all the 50 states either text or call in. I've talked to over 500 people, and we've also in the United States have had three social workers. One was a clinical psychiatrist from Maryland, and she talked on the show. Another was from Indiana, and it was a third party social worker where she's hired out by the CPS. And then the other worker was a foster care mom whose purpose is not to adopt kids. And she really cared about the kids. So it's nice to have people from all facets. So we have a question already. Laura Pounds. Can CPS keep me from my grandson if their parents have a Chin's case? I don't know what a Chin's case is. I assume you're a grandmother, Laura. And they don't like grandmothers, I'm afraid to tell you. They don't like elderly people either, or even, seniors. So if you could tell me what Chins is. Now, to interact with the podcast. Oh, forgot my countries. After the United States, down to Mexico, I've had Mexico comment in. And then I had down in South America, Guyana. Then across the Pacific to the land down under, I've had Australia. Several from Australia. So those are the countries we have in there. Now, to talk about four ways to interact with this podcast, one way is just by being in this room. That's one way you can interact with this podcast. Take notes, and uh, hopefully I can answer your questions. Um, I know it's probably hard and difficult when a family's broken up. I too was in CPS. You know, CPS has ruined my life. I lost my home due to them because I had to sell my home to get an attorney to get my kids back. My credit's been ruined by them. It's been very difficult getting a job because of them. I know that, and it's a long many years of fighting for 15 years with them. They're not friendly. They're not your friend. They are a government agency that's run rogue, and they're bad. Now, another way that you can interact with this podcast is to um, type in a comment. Now, you know, listening is good, taking notes, but you may want to ask a question. Now, emojis are nice. I love to have the loves, and the thumbs up, and the smiley faces, and whatnot. So I love to have you interact that way. But you can also text me a comment about your case. Um, your case, or maybe you had a question, or you just had a general comment about CPS. But I want to stick to CPS. Please, what you can do is show your name, city, state, or of a country, because I said I do have countries around the world that call in about CPS. Try to be complete with your case. Tell me your family structure, what the allegations were, and um, how were the children taken from you, and then lastly, where you at on your case. So that's how you can be complete. It saves a lot of going back and forth like playing a ping pong game. Now, a third way is to be scheduled as a guest on our show. Now, I have a show producer. Her name is Grace. She works really hard behind the scenes. She helps me keep the show running. And I'm really thankful for her help. She's also the person you want to go to if you want to be a guest on my show. I can have up to nine people on my show, including me as 10. All you need to do is type the days that you're available. I mean, the days that you want. I have 14 spots that I do. I do 7 days a week, Monday through Sunday, twice a day, 10 o'clock in the morning and 7 o'clock at night. That's all Pacific Standard Time. And that's 1 hour podcast. Now, on Sunday, I have exception where I come on at 8 o'clock in the morning. I have family outing at church that day on Sunday, so I'm on early, a couple hours early on Sunday. Then next Friday, not this Friday coming up, but the Friday after next, the 6th of September, I have another family commitment with my family. It's a football. It's Friday night football, so my son is very important to support him. So my podcast will be on at 3 o'clock on Friday. 3 o'clock on Friday, 3 to 4 will be my podcast time. Now, all you have to do is pick a date, a Monday evening, Saturday morning, and tell Grace the email to her. Her email is grace@vincentwdavis.com. Grace@vincentwdavis.com. And she'll gladly help you get on the show. She'll give you the link to StreamYard. Plus, she'll tell you that things like no eating or smoking on the show, and not to use names of children or judges or social workers. So just email her and she'll take care of the rest. Now, the fourth way is to call in. And I'm going to put my number up so now you guys can call in. My number is live. Okay, Laura, I'm glad you told me what SHIN stands for. It's where parents have a case, but the child is at home. Okay. And Laura, what city, state, or country are you from? So my phone number again is 626 698 0990. That's my office phone. I will answer the phone during my showtime hours. Other times before my showtime or after I cannot answer, I will send you a message that gives you my showtimes. But anyway, I have a number now. There's four ways: by listening to be in this room, or by texting a comment to me, or schedule to be a guest um, on my show, or call in at 626 698 0990. There's my number. You can call in. Now, there's another number on the screen you're probably wondering about. You're probably wondering about that ticket that's running across the bottom. I want to first give thanks to Vincent Davis, who provides this podcast. He is a dependency family juvenile lawyer. He's real experienced. He has over 35 years of experience, and he has fought CPS and won cases and brought children back. He's also did civil suits and won millions of dollars in both federal and state courts. Also, yeah, he's a trial attorney. And right now, I made arrangements with him. He's offering a consultation to talk to him. He'll talk to you for 30 minutes for $60. And he'll talk about your case and where, um, like, how to navigate CPS and ideas about how to get your children. If you want to retain him, you can talk to him about him representing you. He's in Southern California, but he'll do work in Northern California, any state around there. It just costs a little more when he goes out of state because the per diem he has to do with airfare, ground transportation, and hotel and food. Now, we've had Laura come in this morning, and she says that she has a CHINS case. That's where the child's in the home. And that's something I never heard about, so I'm glad to hear that. And so the parents in there. So CPS cannot keep you from seeing your grandson unless you're unfit as a grandparent. I don't know if that's the case. Laura, if you want to tell me more here. Also, I'd like to know where you're at. And Shannon Wallace calls in and says, I need an attorney for both civil and family law. Yeah. Boy, you must have a criminal matter. And as I say, I was just talking about my attorney here at 888 You can call in and make sure you tell them that Bob Pace sent you, and you can schedule a consultation. He has a whole arrangement of attorneys. He's a family juvenile dependency attorney. But if it's something like a civil, he'll do civil cases too. So he's the guy you need to talk to. And all you do is call that number 888 Also below there, there's a script running. It's a ticket running, and that ticket is telling you that you go to a website and make an appointment off his calendar. That ticket is https colon // Candely, CALENDLY.com /apps, APPTS, VWD /Bob Pace. And that's the second way you can contact Vincent. Also, that's rule number one: why you need an attorney. Um, yes, I know CPS is dirty, and you can do a civil suit, Shannon, but you got to make sure your case is over. If you have an open CPS case, you can't do it. You cannot do it. Now we had some people early on, but all my groups came back in again here, so I need to find a group of people here. Laura was the first one that wrote something. I don't know where she's from, but she's a grandparent, and her parents have the children at home. I don't know any more details about what she wants answered there. But Laura, if you can tell me where you're at, and then what other questions you need. And Shannon, you can call Vincent Davis. He has everything you would need, both civil and family law. He does both. And Shannon's from St. Louis, Missouri County. Well, welcome. And that is an easy way to do it. I tell people that fighting CPS is like having open heart surgery. They're that difficult. Okay. Um, um, so, are there any more further questions? I know Shannon's identified she's from St. Louis, Missouri. And let me see. And Laura, I have no idea where she's from, but she's a grandparent. And she talked about a new term called chins. And I didn't know that was maybe the area I could do. See what is chins. Chins is defined as a child in need of services. Chin means a juvenile who is beyond the control of his or parents such that the child's behavior endangers the health, safety, welfare of the child or other people. Wow. Who has been reported to law enforcement as absence without consent for at least 24 consecutive hours on two or more separate occasions from home of either parent. A crisis residential center, an out of home placement, or a court order placement has has exhibited serious substance abuse problems, has exhibited behaviors, who's in need of necessary services. I don't think they're in the family's minds there. Now, there is ways to prevent out of home placement. The Child Residential Center staff makes reasonable efforts to protect the child and treat reconciliation of the family. If a reconciliation and voluntary return of the child has not been achieved within 48 hours from the time of admission, then the minister of the center does not consider it likely that reconciliation will achieve within the 5 day period. Then the minister shall inform the parent and child of the following: the availability of counsel service, the right to file a child in need service petition for an out of home placement, the right of parents to file a risk petition, and so forth, the right to request a facility administrator, the right to request review of out of home placement, and the right to request a mental health or chemical dependency evaluation. It sounds like the chin is pretty serious. It's a child who's exhibiting a lot of problems, and um, Laura, I don't know what state you're in, but I don't think the child's at home because if he has that kind of problems, they got to put him someplace else. From what I saw the definition again there. So, um, this is sometimes quite interesting. Last night I had 20 people in the room and had like 10 comments going. Today I have about 5 people in the room and very few comments are going. I don't know if certain times are better than other times, but I'm open right now for questions. I can also talk about my case or talk about the characteristics of a social worker or the rules, or I got 50 plus tabs open that we could talk about ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act of 1978. There's another act that I found out that's called NICWA, NICWA, and that is the Canadian, the First Nation tribes. It's interesting how in the United States, all the Indians are classified as Native American Indians. Native American Indians. But in Canada, they like the word First Nation because they like the word Indian. So I learned a lot last night about Canada because the person that called in was from Canada and his wife was a Indian and their children were actually taken by the tribe's CPS. And what happened is they were abusing the child. So that's the second Indian tribe that I've heard that isn't working at all to protect the children, which is sad because the other one I had was the Cherokee in Oklahoma, where a mother said that they were trying to do something really bad to her. There's a conflict of interest, and so anyway, so you know, you got to understand these child protection agency. They are really bad. I mean, I can tell you some characteristics of them. And we have one case that is famous or well known, and it's the case called the Pink Ladies. And it's not because the ladies were pink, it's that they chose to buy t shirts that are pink. And that's not the bad part. The part was on the front of the t shirt, they had stenciled that they are professional child kidnappers. Professional child kidnappers. And then the on the back of the t-shirts they had, "Do you know where your children are at? Do you know where your children are at?" And with that being said, the where the children are at, they parade around in Walmart, and they also paraded around in Costco, Target, Best Buys, all the places. And the sad part about it was the message they were sending out to parents was horrible. horrible. And these are uh, women, 8 white women that worked for a total of 25 years in Prescott, and they were fired. They were fired, and it was very, very, very tough. The director was fired, and then the CPS in Prescott was down to one person, which was a guy that handled all the cases that are calling in. So that is an example of what you might be faced with. Um, and another social worker um, put on her Facebook, and she's a social worker, and she put on her Facebook an ad from 1848. Well, this ad from 1848, she didn't change it all, and she put it on there, and it's black children for sale. Now, maybe because of the trafficking, I don't know why she's black herself, but the ad is very offensive, and it should not have been done there. And I know one of my cohorts called her. She's from Chicago, Illinois, and asked her or text her why she put the ad, and she said she was just trying to make a statement that trafficking is still going on. It's just a poor taste for an ad. They use the N word on the ad, which I can't say on the show, but it happened 10 years before the Civil War. And she decided to run it in the year 2024. So, that's their way of thinking. They're not very smart. And another social worker that was investigating, Crystal Salazar, from Missouri, had a social worker investigating her family because um, her son was being accused of molesting her daughter, her sister. And somehow they right away took her away from the mom and locked him up. And he's been locked up for a couple months now, which I don't understand that. But Crystal Salazar was on the other day, and it was good to hear her. She just gave an update. But what this gentleman did is that he went and asked to speak to the daughter. And the daughter was in school, and he wanted private time with her. Well, that's a no-no. Adults know better than that, and women, especially men with women alone, that's wrong. Well, he asked her to take her clothes off, and he took pictures of her because he was looking for, I guess, the bruise or anything happened that maybe her brother did to her. Anyway, it was inappropriate. The school, you know, should have offered a nurse or something, but he wanted private. Well, he didn't know he was a pedophile, and being a pedophile is a 6-year-old man, and he just wanted to take pictures. Now, whether he puts these pictures on the internet or whether he sells them, we don't know. But anyway, he was fired because the daughter came home and told mom, "Hey, this man took naked pictures of me," and so she crawled right away and said that's wrong, and they agreed, and they went ahead and fired him. But in doing so, he had a coworker that had been with him since they were young children, and that coworker was protecting him or retaliation against the parent. So they made it reverse that the mother is molesting the son. So they have it where the son is molesting the daughter and the mother is molesting the son. And it's becoming really a problem there. It really is becoming a problem. And, that's the kind of social workers, you can't trust them. And also, they broke the rule that and again, that's California, so it may be different in other states. Anytime a child is approached by somebody else that isn't on their card, emergency card, they need to call the parent, have the parent come down, not be with them, but just be standing by. And so that whole process of how they interview children is that they lead them on so bad. They don't really know how to do it. I saw it in my case. I heard it from other people. But that mother's going through a lot right now. I mean, the CPS is so corrupt; they lie, and they still have not done anything. I told her they call the FBI and see if she can make a complaint, but the police says, "Well, there's nothing you did." I mean, it's like I couldn't believe they're defending the pedophile. They could have searched his computer, maybe see where he's sending the pictures to if he is sending them. That's sexual exploitation of a naked girl. And maybe they weren't sexual. I don't know. I wasn't there. But the whole idea really disturbs me because we have a agency that has no controls, no boundaries. And they certainly are not there to help you or your family. So I'm trying to give good examples of social workers that are not that good. So anyway, um, Shannon, if you want to call in, you can call me at 626-698-0990. Um, Shannon, because I could you could talk, or if you want, um, oh, we got someone calling in. Okay, Denise Lake. Okay, welcome. This is Bob Pace.
Hi,
Hi, who am I speaking to?
Jesse Lake.
Oh, hi,
We've
Jesse
spoken
Lake.
before.
Haven't talked to you in a bit. What would you like to talk about, Jesse?
Well, I'd like to give some resources on. You had mentioned a couple of different um, departments of which I could report the criminal behavior that has occurred regarding my case with the altering of the drug test results that resulted in me
Yeah, yeah,
being
mentioned
pressed to,
like at the
to
state level. I
sign the
mean,
right.
have you exhausted all the level locally with the agency?
No, I mean not entirely. I mean this has gone on for so long, and right now I feel just so defeated. I'm pretty sure my lawyer has pulled off of my case. I have too much anxiety to even check the voicemail. I feel overridden with anxiety and worry and fear. Um, I have tried to reach out to several different departments, you know, on a federal level. It's been months ago. I have not filed a report with the local police department because I don't know that that's going to be effective. I don't know. So I'm just reaching out to
Well, first of
if
all, can you
anyone
help
has
me with
knowledge
the
on
with what the criminal
something
charge
like this.
is?
How do
Yeah.
I get justice for something like this when I have been, you know, so wrong?
Well, the
And
drug
I'm
test that you.
currently in a in
Okay.
a litigation, for that guardianship reversal. But my lawyer is not properly representing me, and I have no more money. No more money. He's charged me $20,000 in almost 5 months of
Wow.
litigation and not filed one motion. Um, it's very difficult because it's two different cases. Um, really, one that's already been done and over with, and the other that's a result of the first one. And I have proof that both of them should have not ever occurred because the basis of what the cases were based upon were, altered drug test results. And now I have the testimony of the business lab manager that is confirming absolutely they altered these test results in order, to achieve what they were trying to achieve, and they were successful, and that has resulted in getting all four of my little girls. I just need someone to listen to me.
Well, um, okay, you've gone to the director.
Are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me? Hello, I'm here. I'm here, Jesse. Jesse, are you there?
Can you
Hello,
hear me?
Jesse. Yeah, I hear you. Do you hear me? Huh. Well, we
Okay.
lost Jesse. I'm going to try to get her back. Jesse, do you hear me?
Yes.
Good. I guess I lost you for a second. The problem is we're using
Okay.
an interbase phone. It's internet, and I don't know if wireless phone's better than internet phone, but sometimes I lose my signal.
Okay.
But have you talked to the? Have you gone to the top dog at CPS there, the director?
No,
Is he
I
on a?
have not because I just don't know if maybe I should. I mean, but I don't know that that's going to
Well,
spark. I mean, I think a criminal investigation needs to be sparked. I think the only way that this is going to be told, it was a crime, and I was
now
advised to
what
report
was
it
the
as a crime.
crime? What was the crime committed?
Um, I don't want to say perjury because I don't know the exact definition of perjury, obstruction of justice. The crime was a public official in the state of Missouri altered drug test results to reflect positive in order to steal my children
Okay.
for her very own, to adopt for her very own self. She was wanting to adopt the older set of twins. I have two sets of twins. So
Right.
after I gave birth to the second set of twins, she had not adopted the first set yet. They
She
were
was trying to make
still
a deal with
dragging
you,
this twin
Jesse.
stuff.
Remember the deal she was trying to make, and she reneged on you.
Well, no, not exactly. She
Oh,
it wasn't her directly that made the deal. It was, she of course removed herself out of this as a, she no longer was acting as a public official, but now she was acting as a foster parent. And it's like, okay, which one are you? Are you in your Are you just a foster parent, or are you? That is why they have rules about conflict of interest. She should have been forced to step down and not keep her position as the acting director if she was going to step into the role of a foster parent, because that makes things very hairy kind of. You know what I'm saying? It makes
yeah.
it difficult. But it wasn't her directly that made the deal. It was all of her people. The state appointed attorney, the GAO, the guardian ad litem on the case at the time, and they are the ones that came to me and said, "Here's what is going to happen: either do a voluntary TPR, so you're going to sign your older girls away, sign your rights away. That would allow the director to adopt them, and if you do that, we'll grant you a guardianship on the babies." So then I was well, and then the second option was if you fight it and you don't do the voluntary and you lose, and I'm already seeing, how what type of fight this is going to be. It's going to be an unfair fight because they've already gotten away with forging drug tests, and my babies have been in custody now for 6 months based off forged drug tests.
Yeah.
So they said if I fight it and I lose, then they would put all four girls up for adoption and I would lose them all. So I couldn't risk that. Obviously I chose to sign over out of just complete fear and coercion, threat. I felt like I had no option but to sign them away to save the babies, sign over the 5-year-olds to save the newborns. And they did grant the guardianship on the newborn, on the little ones. But now the woman that I've signed the guardianship over to, it's not the director, but she's someone that was a foster parent. She had agreed, I'll take guardianship and I'll give them right back to you. Well, she did. But now here I am, 3 years later, trying to reverse the guardianship and just get the girls back in my care. Well, this woman doesn't want to consent anymore. And I feel as though the director is footing the bill for her legal fight against me. I know that this is so complicated, like Jerry Springer, that it is the truth. So I'm going to get probably $30,000 to fight me in the last 5 months in this guardian, which should just be a simple probate matter, guardianship reversal. I have done everything, that I need to do to win this, including that 15-panel hair test that was asked of me. That's how I got the audio recording of the business lab manager of the laboratory that reviewed those drug test results from 3 years ago. And he is the one that says, oh my gosh, you are absolutely unbelievable. Yes, these are forged. Yes, they had good software. They adjusted the cutoff levels on the test. They've adjusted the metric, of unit to display like the units of measurement reflects a liquid metric, not a hair for a hair test. Milliliters. You don't measure hair in milliliters, and that's how they have that reported inaccurately.
Now, I just put the comments in the room from Faye, who is listening to your case. She's from Richmond, Kentucky, and welcome, Faye. And she had the same thing happen to her. She had an older son, a younger daughter, and the CPS did an ultimatum that she'd lose her daughter. She could keep her son, but she'd lose her daughter. She couldn't have both. And so she had the same ultimatum done to her. And she could change anybody like that. Now, perjury is lying in court or court affidavits. So if they have said that the drug tests are bona fide and they actually lie and you can have it proved, um, then yeah, that definitely is a criminal matter. Now,
Yeah, and if it, but
I'm only suggesting that you try to work within the system. If you haven't talked to the CPS director there in Missouri, then maybe you should, and maybe tell her the same thing you're telling me. You need to tell them that how you
yeah,
feel and what you think is happening and what you think is wrong. Because
yeah.
if
I'm just
if
fearful that they won't.
well, you're
I mean,
making
actually, at this point, I have nothing left to lose. I mean, they've taken everything from me.
right. You have nothing
Everything.
to lose.
They can,
I would make
okay.
an appointment with
Yeah.
the director and tell them that you tried to work it out with the department, but now they've committed perjury. You gotta say the word perjury, and tell
Is
them.
it perjury or obstruction of justice?
Well, it could be both, depending on that.
Or fraud? Is it fraud? I mean, I looked on the federal level. There's a fraud department, that of course you can't get through to anybody, but um, somebody went in and altered those results to reflect, something
Can you
different,
see
and
the
they made it.
erasers or the cross out of the ink or anything? How do you know it's been altered?
I know because, well, one, I was able to point it out with the naked eyes. Looking after a long time had gone by, I realized, oh my gosh, next to methamphetamine they have ml, so milliliters, and I'm like, this is a hair test. Why is this saying milliliters? And that was an inconsistent metric. When I looked at all of the test results, there was three different results for each of us. And I mean, one, there were several different medical review officers that had signed off on these. I was really confused by the fact that there were different substances on different results. It looked like there were different panel tests. But the main thing that I confirmed with that expert, because he is considered an expert, I would love to play the tapes for you. I mean, um, he is an expert witness, or I'm sorry, expert, testimony when it comes to these drug test results. He reviews them all the time. He is the one that looked and said, "Oh my gosh!" First, he said, "At first glance, these test results environmental exposure, which should have been thrown out. That means somehow it got in your system by no fault of your own. You don't know how it got there, but you didn't do it on purpose. That should have been thrown out." And I'm like, yeah, I'm not buying that even. I mean, it sounds good, but I do not believe that myself and the father both tested positive for environmental exposure. At what point were we? And he's like, well, that's just the thing. But then went in further and I asked him, what about that milliliter? And he got to looking at it and he said, oh my gosh, I didn't even notice that. You're right. He said that couldn't be. There's no way that could be. And that he goes on to say, yeah, they have good software. And then he said, wait a minute, let me check on this. Yep, changed the cutoff levels as well. So they went in and he said they had good software. So somehow they went in and tried to delete, what the original cutoff level should display, and they changed it um, so that it would reflect, positive on our behalf. And not only did they do it for me, but they did it for the father as well. And that's just horrible. And then came in and took away my 1-month-old babies um, based off these forged drug test results, and we've had not a leg to stand on. It was just that's what it was.
Now that attorney you hired and you spent $20,000, he should be held
Wait,
accountable. You can make a complaint against the bar.
I'm
And
gonna have to because I have a voicemail that I'm too scared to listen to. I'm so anxiety ridden, and I know that's what this voicemail is gonna say, and I'm gonna check it when I hang up from here. But he's going to tell me that he cannot any longer represent me because of my balance with the firm. There was something very shady about him from that I picked up on months ago. The fact that he did not want to subpoena the business lab manager. When the business lab manager is very willing to testify and would like to testify because he wants to be held to my case, and my attorney's like, yeah, I can't do that with your balance the way it is. I mean, I've paid him several thousands of dollars, but I'm not, I
twenty
just don't
thousand
have it. I
sounds very
cannot have it.
excessive. I mean, I've seen the cases that Vincent's done, and 20,000 is very excessive for what all he's done because it sounds like he hasn't done very much.
Nothing. He's done nothing, but no motions have been filed. And the thing is every motion that has been filed on the other party's behalf, I have successfully, I don't want to say beat, but I have cleared my name. Like the 15 panel hair test, I completed and passed it. The home study that I was requested to have done, I paid for it out of my pocket, and it had a great report attached to it. The supervised visits, I paid for them out of my pocket every other weekend. Reports.
Well, all your listeners in the room, are there any advice anybody would like to give um, her right now? My advice for her is to go to upper management and tell them how it is. And tell them that you think that fraud or perjury, has
Yeah.
happened here. You know, it is
And
definitely.
maybe report it to local law enforcement.
Well, no, I don't know. See, this is more of a CPS uh, breakdown, meaning I don't know criminally that the police would get involved with someone that's committed perjury or lied on a CPS case. I think this has to come within the CPS system, either from upper people.
I don't
Now,
know because that woman at the Boone County Prosecutor's Office, the victim of crime, she said you need to report this to the police, and I didn't do it because my attorney told me not to. She said don't be messy
wow. Well,
right
I have
now.
enough to
We're close
lose.
to
All the
getting this
police
girl.
will sit there and say no, but yes, for all definitionally say yes, you need to complete because it is a crime. And
It is a crime.
you're not
Yeah.
supposed to lie, and you're not supposed to change records, and those are criminal facts, criminal matters.
And the other thing is, I just records from DSS, and instead of getting my records, I was responded. They responded with um, a notice of wage garnishment that they're going to start garnishing my wages $300 a month for back child support that they feel that I owe in the amount of almost $15,000. So I was retaliated against because of requesting my records. That is how they responded. They said, you know what? We're going to start garnishing your wages now. Right.
They're
For kids that they
retaliating.
took
They're
away
retaliating,
wrongfully.
and as I say, they retaliated and they took away my daughter. They very simply told my daughter at 12, "You're going to divorce your parents, change your name, you're going to seal your birth certificate, and be adopted by foster care." The social worker did that. He said, "You'll never see your daughter again." So they do retaliate. That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm at the point where I really don't have much else left to. I don't want this to live for because then I'll be labeled insane and crazy and suicidal and all that. But um, I just So does he get so wrong?
Yeah,
Such a victim.
yeah.
So, well, I may try to make an appointment with the director.
Now
Um,
those numbers, you can go all the way to the federal government, and you know, if you think you're getting wayside, there's also your representatives and your senators, the Congress people, and the
yep, I've
governor,
reached out.
and
I have reached out to the senators.
yeah, sometimes they
Um,
don't want to get involved. I don't know why, because it is a good cause, but
well, Missouri wants to protect Missouri, which is my fear about the director. Missouri wants to protect Missouri. Missouri does not want to see, Missouri under
well, then
the
you could go to the
uh,
state, and that is use the civil rights coordinator or the ombudsperson.
what does OMBUS stand for? Official
Ombudsperson.
office.
Well, let me get the definition.
How does
Ombuds
people
definition
advocate?
is an ombudsperson of a public advocate um, is a government employee who investigates and tries to resolve complaints, usually through recommendations or mediation. They're usually appointed by the governor or by parliament. So they
See, the governor
investigate
doesn't want
complaints.
anything to do with enforcement.
I'm sorry, what?
The governor here in Missouri is completely team Ball. He is team that, which is the former acting director's last name. He is about supporting her. I mean, I don't believe the governor is going to provide any help to me at all. But maybe the director of the state. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that it might frighten them enough that they don't want to put Missouri in the hot seat, and they may just say, okay, here, let's work this out. And
Well,
I
you
don't know what that would look like at this
yeah,
point.
you could have an OCR, which is um, the investigation. Let me see here. An OCR is the
What blows
Office
my
for
mind,
Civil Rights, and see
it's
you
the Office of what? The
Office of Civil
Civil
Rights.
Rights.
Yeah, an
Okay.
OCR. Now you as a, you're guaranteed by the Constitution to have civil rights and constitutional rights, like the 14th Amendment, like the Fourth Amendment. These rights are supposed
But
to
they don't
protect you.
honor those in court.
Well, that's why you get a hold of
They will
the
not.
OCR who investigates these civil rights that you're being violated.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much documentation on this case. If somebody was to look into it, they can see. I
Well,
mean, the interviews
they,
that
for
news
instance, at
reporting.
the federal level here, they say how uh, how the Office for Civil Rights handles complaints. See, you need to um, make a complaint, and there's
I'm
all these
pretty
civil
sure I
rights
have,
that
but
they're
I don't
talking
know.
about. There's a Civil Rights Act of 1964, a 1972, 1973, 75, 1990, and these are all the laws enforced by the Office of Civil Rights. And all you have to do is look on the internet and file a complaint with the Office of Civil Rights. So you got two people, the ombudsperson and you got the civil rights. They both are supposed to handle complaints, and especially if they're, and the police department, if there's a criminal matter, such violation, um, they did something wrong there, that true could be investigated. The problem I find out is that the police sometimes are cahoots with the child protection system.
Yeah, yeah. But again, this is a little bit of a different type of deal because how many people do you know that have had their children taken by the director of the Department of Social Services. None
Well,
in
there
my
was the
experience. None.
executive director of the Cherokee Indian tribe that took her two boys, Shannon's boys, from her in Oklahoma. It's a conflict of
Of the
interest.
church, we're talking the state,
No,
the
I'm
whole
talking to the
state.
state
She's
too. They
over the
went.
whole.
The Cherokee is a federal recognized
Oh,
tribe,
okay,
and
okay.
they have their own uh, CPS, but there's a conflict of interest because the state attorney general of Oklahoma is the executive director of the Indian Child Welfare Agency there in Oklahoma for the Cherokee. So I'm telling you, when there's corrupts and your constitutional rights or civil rights are being violated and things like that, you need to get some investigations done. I'm just saying at the state level you
Yeah,
have the ombudsperson, you have the civil rights coordinator. And at the federal level you have other ones there. You can also if a judge is bad, you can report a bad judge, a bad attorney. But the problem is most people don't do it because it takes a lot of work. But if you're
it's time.
persistent and want to do that, and especially you have your loved ones there, it doesn't hurt to do all that. It doesn't hurt to do all that
Yeah,
because you've had fraud there. They've also done perjury too. You know,
yeah.
fraud is a
Really
crime,
kidnapping.
perjury is a crime.
In kidnapping. I mean, by way of threat, coercion, perjury, and fraud.
Right,
I mean,
kidnapping
you
too.
were,
Kidnapping too.
yeah.
It's a shame that
Not to
attorney
mention the
was
fact that
bad
I
for you
know
because
that
that
someone is,
money could have been spent with a good attorney.
yeah, and I'm all exhausted with funds. I am exhausted. I need a law firm that's going to take a case and we
Yeah,
win. You know,
they're hard
and
to
I
find. There
have
are
one law
pro
firm.
bono. There are pro bonos out there. You just have to look it up. There are pro bonos. But
Well,
then,
they're all in California and stuff. Like I've found lawyers in California that their description of their resume looks perfect for what I need, but they're in California.
well,
And
the problem is when people come from state, they have per diem. When they go to another state, they have the airfare transportation, the ground transportation to get around to the courts, the hotel room they stay in, and the
it could
food they
almost
eat.
be done all via Zoom. They do all this stuff via Zoom anyway. It's like
Yeah, you could
anyway.
work it with the Zoom. Yes, that's true. That is true. A lot of
I'm
things are
getting a
on
call.
Zoom
I need
now.
to hang up because this could be an
Okay.
important call.
All
I'll
right.
call back.
You go ahead and take care of the call. Thank you so much for calling in. Okay. Shannon just typed in a message. I can't find anyone in Missouri who would touch my case. Um, there's got to be somebody in there. Of course, it's going to take money, and money is hard to come by. Um, that was Jessica Lake, who has a really terrible problem about her constitutional rights being violated in perjury, and they also had fraud in there. Now, Shannon says there's no one in Missouri who would touch my case. Um, I think if you spent 60 hours for a whole week, you'd find somebody. I know there's somebody. You just have to be persistent and check it around. You have to be persistent. Let me see here. Shannon, um, there are pro bono attorneys you can find. There are attorneys you can find in Missouri that will touch your case. Um, I don't know how it'd be a conflict of interest. They're just afraid to tackle them because they're not that good. I know Vincent Davis. If you talk to him for 30 minutes, he will help you and tell you what needs to be done. You know, in fact, he has recently was a couple months ago. He was in Oklahoma defending a case, so it is possible to have Vincent Davis represent you. You just need to call in. Wow, 4 years, a long time, Shannon. 4 years. Wow. Well, Shannon, my podcast show, it's now 11 o'clock and I must sign off. You just called that number, huh? That number that, let me see. You called my number, 888 That's the number you need to call. Make sure you tell them that Bob Pace sent you. So, anyway, it's 11 o'clock and it's actually a minute after. I want to thank all you people that have called and listened. Um, Thank you, Shannon Wall from Missouri. Thank you, Faye from Richmond, Kentucky, for all your help and advice. And then Jessica Lake, thank you for calling in and good luck with your case. I hope it works out better for you. Um, ah, and Laura Pounds, I never knew where you're from, but she had a chins case. I want to help her. She's a grandparent. Thank you for calling in too. So I'll see you all tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for my podcast. I'll see you all tonight. God bless you all. Don't don't give up and keep fighting for your kids. You will get them back. Take care. Bob Pace